So this is the song that I was talking about earlier. Where like one of my better memories of playing this game growing up is long story short, and I've talked about it at least a little bit before. My mom is a classical musician, and one day I was just playing this game with my friends in the living room, and we were customizing decks in this screen here. And she just suddenly comes in like nerding the heck out about how she recognizes this song as like a remix piece of classical music. And at the time we had a piano in the living room, and she just like started playing it because she was just so into it. She just loved that like this random song that she liked a lot and knew on piano was just playing in this random game that we were playing. Yeah, this was one of those games where like I wouldn't have necessarily had a reason to play it, and it wasn't like a hand-me-down or anything. It was literally just like a random GameStop moment of me and Josh were at GameStop, and I had, I think, $5 or less to spend, or at least $10 or less to spend on a new game or yeah, I want to say that I had something close to like $10 or $15, but I wanted to stretch my dollar out, and at the time this was like $5 bargain bin, like, and I just looked at the cover, and Josh was like, "Oh, I think I've seen a review of that. I think it's pretty good." I'm like, "Okay, I'll try it." One of the most impactful games of my life, I guess. I'll just try it for less than $5. There are a lot of great games like that. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely one of those, like, you know, millennial nostalgia for the rental store things, where, like, for the most part, rental stores were just objectively worse. Or, like, game stores in general. But the ability to just kind of randomly stumble across stuff like that is... It's not even like that's not still possible. Like, sometimes you just stumble on a random video online that introduces you to a game that's kind of a similar vibe. But there was something a little cooler about it being way more random. Like, I had no idea what the hell I was buying when I picked up this game. Back in my day, games were objectively worse to look through, but it was kind of neat sometimes. Got an invite to this old Neopets recreation called Grunda's Cafe, so that's what I'm doing. That's cute though, because I know that obviously people were like they did like a big update to the site pretty recently because of like Flash being a thing and then not being a thing. And I'm pretty sure they got rid of like most of the games and like they because they had to rebuild them. They didn't just like use the emulation on them, which is like fair, but also there's like a quarter of the nostalgia for that site gone. Like,
and it just reminds me about how the internet has kind of gravitated all towards like YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, etc. Right? In that like original sites aren't as like popular anymore, which is sad. I was talking on Twitter with somebody about like Homestuck, right? You remember Homestuck, right?
I mean, I certainly know it exists.
Yeah, that's the right attitude. People were talking about how like conversations about Homestuck kind of
shit, this is
died
bad.
when it ended. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there was a reason for that, right? Because like the story one kind of fell off, but two mainly the or it wasn't conversations. It was the fact that like there isn't much value in going into Homestuck now and reading it, right? Because a big part of experiencing it at the time was hanging out on the forums, discussing what was going to happen, stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
And it existed for that period of time and that period of time only. But it's too hard to kind of get into and experience by oneself. Ooh,
JD
goddamn.
just killed me.
Welcome back. I was just talking to your viewers about how organizing is indeed bonkers.
Yeah. Maybe not my first choice of words, but yeah.
I get hip with the Twitch chat lingo.
I'm proud of you.
You ever see that that video of Chuck E. Cheese doing a Twitch stream?
No, but I think I remember that existing.
It is fucking funny. Okay, so I think they're doing it for some sort of charity or something, and Chucky is like a puppet, right? And
Oh.
he's playing Fall Guys. 90% of the stream, he's not saying anything. The chat is dead. There's nobody talking in chat, right?
Oh no.
The donation amount empty. He's got nothing. All
Ah.
right, and the clip that came from this stream after like I want to say the second or third hour in is he just shakes a little and then he turns to the screen and he says poggers.
Oh
That's it.
no.
And he turns back. And he says it in the weirdest fucking way, just entirely out of context.
Poggers.
Oh no. Oh no. Like when corporations actually do manage to like latch on to culture in like any way, or like, you know, like more modern culture like that, like they're memeing it up, they're actually getting some attention doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, like the
It's like
fucking Wendy's from Wendy's girl.
Yeah. It's like actually pretty impressive because like 99 times out of 100 it'll be like a corporation with like 1 trillion follows on Twitter just because they're a big corporation. And then they do an event like that where it's just sad and empty and bad. Because why would anybody care?
It's really interesting because, like, given how big social media is
Shit.
nowadays,
Oh, I thought they were using the bomb. Go on.
it's like pretty hard to like get a following, I think, or depending on your like skill set, obviously. Like if you have a skill, then it's easier, you know.
How the fuck did Opera of all browsers become the cool one? Yeah, that's been a big thing lately. I don't know if you've been on top of the Opera GX becoming the cool web browser.
Isn't there? I'm pretty sure their Twitter profile pic right now is literally like two dudes kissing. And
it is. They're like, fuck it, this is our Pride Month logo. But yeah, no, there's definitely moments that I've had where I'll just like go on like an enormous corporation's like Twitter feed or something just to see how bad the ratio is of like their follower count to like how much attention their posts get. Because it will be like 30,000 follower account with like 10 likes on a post, and I'm just like, you guys. Or what was the one that I thought was? Oh, it was for some reason, out of sheer curiosity. I don't know why, but like I was getting like advertisements on Twitter for the fact that like Wonder Bread was gonna be at the Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade. And instantly that was the first thing that came to mind. I was like, how many people even remotely care that this is happening? Like the biggest parade in the country. And they have like a giant float in it. And like, does anybody care? And no, nobody cared. At least online, nobody cared. I don't know. I just couldn't help but be curious what their numbers for something like that looked like, because I knew that they wouldn't be good. So, long story short, me and a friend of mine actually, like, from the ground up, developed our own, like, set of cards for a card game that we got really obsessed with. And it mostly started... So the game itself, the original game, is called Pixel Tactics, which I originally played because a friend of mine got it for me, I think either for Christmas or my birthday, because they came out with Mega Man-themed sets. And that was really cool, because Mega Man is a good series to pull from for that sort of thing, where there's just so many robot masters and all of them have their own card. And technically the game wasn't built to be a deck-building game, but they had 3 different sets. And it was fun to play with like the sets as they were, and I think that's how you were technically supposed to play, but it was way more fun to like build them from the ground up to actually have like a coherent strategy going on with them. And me and a decent handful of friends got so obsessed with doing that for like God, like an entire like summer or longer straight. And there was just one day where one of the people I played with was one of the friends that I played competitive Smash with. And the game is very, like, grid-based like that, where, like, attacks, like, kind of like I was talking about a second ago, where attacks kind of have to, like, line up in a certain way for you to be able to pull them off. And it translated really well to characters from an action game, because it would be like, you know, Bomb Man, do all of the damage to everything that's in a certain row and column. Or just, you know, things like that where it's like, oh, I see, it's like the explosion going out. Oh, you're doing damage to adjacent things. You're doing damage to just the corners, like stuff like that. And the way that the game is set up is it's set up where it's like 3 rows that your characters are set up on. Where it's like, I think it's Vanguard, flank, and rear. So like front, middle, and back. And I was joking around with him because he was like my competitive Smash friend, like, oh, you know what would translate really well to this? Marth's sword mechanic. Because if you're not familiar, in all of the Smash games, Marth does the most damage on the tip of his sword. Like, by a long shot. Like, you can kill people super easily by hitting people with the tip of your sword. And it kind of started as like a, haha, that would work really well. And I don't know what went off on our brains, but we were like, wait, no, that would actually work really well. And then we just kind of started half spiraling, half joking about other Smash characters, how they would translate. And then after a while, we just started like actually taking it seriously as like a fun project that we could work on. And let me actually see. I designed this like in Photoshop from the ground up, and we literally made one for like every single character. And it was a fun learning experience, because I've never been like part of any kind of like actually like game design or, you know, game development project or anything like that before. And it's not like it was a serious one, where it's not like we had like a deadline or anything like that. We just kind of like had fun while we were making it. But for some reason we were motivated enough to see it through, and we at least have all of the characters up until they started releasing DLC, I believe. We have Piranha Plant, because that was like essentially part of the base roster, but I don't think we have anybody beyond that. And we wanted to go back and update that eventually, but we just kind of, I don't know. It's been harder to find the motivation to go back for it. One game that actually ends up being like an interesting deck building game experience, just because of the context of it, is the original Pokemon trading card game for the Game Boy Color. Because it's kind of like the Pokemon trading card game frozen in time, where there will never be any new sets to that game specifically. Technically, they did come out with a sequel which has more cards, but that's a little different. It's just neat. Like, I have a lot of incentive to go back to that, even though it's like as outdated as it is. Just like specifically because it's outdated. Now, like the Pokemon trading card game, you know, even within a decade of that game coming out, was way more bloated than it was when it first started. And it's made me want to try to do something where I like set up online emulators or something and get friends together to play that kind of game. Because it'd be cool to just play with a bunch of people with just the like the first was I think 3 sets of Pokemon trading cards in mind for what they're playing with, instead of worrying about what the card game is in its current state. And then worrying about losing everything that we set up, like 2 seconds after we set it up, because everything got cycled out. It does technically have that problem of, like, the first, you know, the meta of the original few sets of cards is also something that's pretty solved. But also, if I'm doing something like that with friends, we could just kind of, like, house rules, not use those decks.